Right. All right, we're live now. So, good evening to everybody. You guys got here a little bit early. I actually got it set up a little bit early tonight. I don't usually I'm kind of last minute just jumping in here, but I did get it set up early enough that the placeholder was up there. So, if you've been sitting here waiting on me, I apologize for that. But I'm here now. So, welcome everybody. Glad you guys could make it. And let's see. Let's get started here. Let's give a second here for see who we got in here. I think I'm all set up and ready to go. Okay. So while we're doing this, while we're waiting on everybody to get connected and all that, I'm just going to give the disclaimers I normally give. This is a weekly live broadcast, usually at 7 o'clock Central Time on Thursday evenings. But sometimes, life gets in the way. I can't make it. I try to post notices in the Facebook group and now the community page on YouTube. Figured out how to use that, so I'll be able to post updates on there if I can't make it. What else can I say? This is just pretty much an Ask Me Anything session. So I don't have a topic planned out. It's just I do my best to respond to the live chat that's going on. If you're watching this broadcast after it aired, you'll see the chat replay in the side, but it'll say replay. It's not live. So at that point, you should be able to tell whether it's actually live or not. Just look at that, because a lot of times I get people, leaving a comment on the video saying hi and expecting, I think, for me to respond to that. But it's after the video's aired live. So anyway, get that out of the way. Only thing I ask is, again, be family friendly. Don't start cussing at people, calling people names. Don't be hateful, rude, any of those things, because we'll kick you out if you are. It's okay. We can all have differences of opinions. That's fine. But you don't have to be hateful about it. We can still be friends. So, all right. Let's get into this. So we got Aaron Broswell here. Katernix is here. Cockeyed Homestead. Those guys were all here really early. Lisa, hello to you. Hatch Poultry is here. Everybody say hello to Hatch Poultry Farms. Fan Me, hello to you. Lauren says, hey, Chris, haven't been on in a while. That's okay. We don't take track of attendance or anything like that, but it's good to see you back. Thanks for making it. Lisa from New Mexico, nice. Lauren Phelps, hello. Charles says, hey, Chris, how's it going tonight? Doing well, thank you. Who else we got here? Naomi McShane from the UK. Hope you're keeping okay. Doing very well, thank you. And let's see who else we got here. Jennifer McDrummond says hello from Washington State. I got new glasses last week, and they're progressive lenses. I'm getting older. I need bifocals, and I decided to go with progressive lenses. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of like a no-line bifocal, but it's a little bit different. So if you see me struggling with words doing this, I'm trying to find the focal point in my glasses. I'm not quite used to them yet. Working my way through them though. Get rid of that here real quick. Let's get it back in here. Okay, so where were we at? Jennifer from Washington State. Brian says, hello everyone. Hope you're all well. Thank you very much. Hello to you, Heather. And Michelle says, good night. All stay safe. Checking out already, are you, Michelle? Just got here, but hey, thanks for stopping by either way. DLN says, I ordered my first batch of quail from Kansas City Quail Farm. Awesome. Good luck with your hatch. Hope it goes well. You can't go wrong. Kansas City Quail Farm's a great supplier. They have really good bloodline, so you can't go wrong with their eggs. They're gonna treat you right. I should also take a mention, because Hatch Poultry Farms is here. They have some great supplies as well. If you're looking for eggs, that's another place you can order from. And we actually have a discount code in pretty much all of my most recent videos. If you look down in the description, there is a link you can click and a discount code for Hatch Poultry Farms. So Muzzy, I'm just going to call you Muzzy. There's a lot there. Says, what's up, Chris? Saying hi from Rhode Island. Awesome. Thanks for joining. And what's that? Dixon's probably, I don't know. From Clayton, Idaho. Heather wants a shout out. So yeah, there's your shout out, Heather. Bryce says, hi from Smithfield, North Carolina. I'm getting 24 new chicks. Should I give them a small amount of apple cider vinegar? I've heard of people doing that. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Not straight apple cider vinegar, but put, just like in a gallon of water, maybe a tablespoon or something like that. There are some probiotics to that. Somebody's down there is giving you a recipe for it. What, a quarter cup, they said, to what? It says 1 tablespoon. This is Jennifer Hart. Says 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 1/4 cup of honey, 1 clove of garlic minced, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda for magic chick water. There you go. That's a good one. I'm not sold on whether, sorry, I get distracted by something. I'm not sold on whether really apple cider vinegar really does all that much. It is good for them. There are probiotics, I should say, in apple cider vinegar, but it's not magical. So I mean, people get carried away with what apple cider vinegar can do, and you know, I don't know. You hear some pretty crazy claims for it out there, but it is good for them. So there's nothing wrong with adding a little bit to their water. So man, I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but my video quality looks like crap on my replay. I mean, it's just terrible, very pixelated, not very good at all. Must be a bandwidth issue of some kind. I guess you're not here to see me anyway. You're here more to listen to me, probably. It's probably best that you can't see me sometimes. So hopefully it's not distracting, not too bad for you guys. Excuse me. All right. Ignacio says, Senor Chris, gracias por los videos. You're very welcome. My Spanish is out of practice, or we'd have a good conversation. Actually, I've never really been that great at my Spanish. I need to practice a lot more. All right. Jill Hall says, hi to Hatch Poultry. Star says, hey. Heather says, can I have a shout out again? Didn't I do that already? Yeah. Johnny Chadwell from Indiana and Jill Hall. Ladrell says, hello, Chris from North Carolina. And Heather, you're going to have to quit with the spamminess on the comments. That's the third time you asked for a shout out. I gave you a shout out, but you got to quit with the spamming. We'll have to kick people out for that kind of stuff. I know you're just waiting for the chat to catch up to you, but again, no need to repeat the same thing over and over and over again. I'll get to it when I can. All right, that's enough. I'm not really trying to be mean to you or anything. Just we don't need the same comment over and over again. Red Ball Bell, I think it is. Raw Bell, there we go. Glasses, told you. From UK. Lee Parkinson from Texas. Star Gross from Louisiana. John says, hard frost tonight. What to do for plants? Yeah, we've got some cold weather coming too. If you've got plants outside that you can't bring in, try covering them up with something, even if it's like an old bed sheet, you know, something like that. Just cover them with that. That can really help them get through a lot of hard frost type things. So, you know, that would be my best suggestion for that. If you don't have a way to bring them in, if you have a way to bring them in, just bring them in. It depends on kind of what plants you're talking about too. A lot of them can handle, you know, it depends on, I mean, like cabbage and broccoli, and some of those are cold weather crops. They can handle a hard frost okay. It's still best to cover them up if you can, but if you can't, it's nothing to worry about too much. All right, Kurt says, hi, how's it going? I had two doe rabbits and had 7 babies each. My quail are starting to lay. Awesome. Congratulations on the new babies and on the new eggs. So good luck with, well, I guess you don't need good luck. They're already done. So congratulations. Heather, I'm doing really well. Thank you very much. Hopefully you're doing well too. Cockeyed Homestead says, Chris, can I use the tight mesh shelves for the bottom of rabbit cages? It's about 1/2 inch spacing. It worked great. Oh, can I use the tight? It worked great for rabbits. Okay. I think are you asking me if you can use them? Can I use the tight mesh shelves for the bottom of rabbit? You probably can. I think the thing you would need to look at there, I mean, the spacing is definitely 1/2 inch spacing, maybe a little bit small for the droppings to fall through. But more importantly would be the gauge of the wire. Now, shelves probably have pretty big gauge wire, so that's fine. But make sure you don't use anything with really thin wire. Thin wire could be it can really hurt their feet, be really rough on their feet. But, you know, bottom of a tight mesh shelf should be fine. Grab a drink there. All right, Robin's Nest says, my eggs are going to be mailed out next week. I'm so excited. It's too hot in my house and I need to reduce the humidity in the incubator. Been playing with the incubator. How can I reduce the humidity? Well, aside from remove all the water, there's not really much you can do to reduce the humidity, but it shouldn't be that bad, honestly. And a lot of times when you first plug it in, especially if you've like washed it or whatever, or you've just put some water in it, I mean, the humidity is going to spike right up. But if you just give it a little while, it'll level back out. It'll drop back down to normal levels. It's usually not a big deal to worry about. Also, make sure you take the vent plugs out. Leave it open, not the incubator open, but take the vent plugs out. There's 2 little red plugs usually, depending on what kind of incubator you have. On mine, here, let me grab the lid. I'll show you what I'm talking about, just in case you don't know. This might be easier said than done. It's kind of dirty right now. All right, here we go. Incubator lid. There's 2 red plugs. One goes in here, one goes in here. Take them out, throw them away. You don't need them. You need to leave this open so that your birds will be able to get, you know, airflow through. that'll help level out your humidity too if you haven't already done that. So there you go. Put that back up so I don't step on it and break it or anything. All right, back to it. Where are we at here? Brad Smith says, hey, hello to you, Brad. Hi from Louisiana, from Star. All right, where are we going here? J-Bid says, I ordered 60 quail eggs from Hatch Poultry Farms. Awesome. Yeah, again, you can't go wrong with Hatch Poultry Farms. They've got some great bloodlines. You're going to get a great product there, great customer service as well. Hopefully you use the discount code and got a little bit of a discount too. Zach, I'm just going to call you Zach. Hey, Chris, I got a few more questions for you about my quail. I'm having trouble sexing my tuxedo quail. Any tips? They're about 6 weeks. I also have seen your videos. Okay, so if you've seen the video about how to sex quail, where I talk about how to vent sex them, those kinds of things, you're going to have to wait probably a little bit longer before you can do that. They really need to be at, at sexual maturity. The roosters need to be crowing, the females starting to lay eggs. That's the only time you're really going to be able to tell by vent sexing them. The rest of the time, if they're not in breeding mode, the roosters aren't crowing, the females aren't laying eggs, the roosters don't produce that foam and don't have that bulge at the end of their tail that makes it easier to tell which is a male, which is a female. So if you've seen that video and that's what you're talking about, just wait a little while. That's all you can do, unfortunately. If you haven't seen that video, you can go back. I think it's called 3 Easy Ways to Sex Quail or something like that. Should be able to find it pretty easily, I think. Hopefully that answers that for you anyway. Jennifer says, let's see, Bryce. Oh, that's the recipe for the magic chick water. Tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, a quarter cup of honey, a clove of garlic minced, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Now, okay, there you go. You followed it up. That's per gallon of water. That was going to be my question. How much water do you put in there? I was thinking it was a gallon of water. That seems like a quarter cup of honey, a clove of minced garlic, a teaspoon of baking soda. Seems like a lot of honey, but maybe not. Excuse me. Heather Carlson says, my bunny had 8 babies and 4 died. I'm sorry to hear that, Heather. I mean, it happens sometimes depending on why they died. Who knows? There's multiple reasons why baby rabbits could die if they, get out of the nest. Even if it's not really, really cold outside, they don't have any fur yet and they're out of the nest, they can easily chill and die from that. That's probably the most common reason for it to happen. So if she had them like on the cage floor or something like that, that happens from time to time. It's one of those things where you just kind of got to watch your rabbits when they're getting ready to have babies. Hopefully they have them in the nest box. If they don't, you want to be there to scoop them up as quick as you can, put them in the nest, so in the nest box itself, so that they'll stay warm inside there. That would be, I don't know exactly what could have caused. I mean, there's multiple things, but hopefully that was all it was. It wasn't anything more serious. Especially if your rabbit is a first-time mom, it's not uncommon for them to have a lot of problems when they're first-time moms. So be patient with her, give her another try or two, and see how well she does on the next litter. She'll probably do much better. All right, Daryl from South Carolina. Okay, William says the pick is fine on my end. It must be mine. It looks good now. Well, as good as I can look, I guess. It looks decent now. I need to invest in some better equipment. I shoot these on my cell phone, and it works, but it's not the best. It's just, equipment to do all that stuff is kind of expensive. So maybe in time I will get better equipment, be able to shoot better quality live video for you guys. All right. William says, hello, Chris. Greetings from Alabama. I have 3 incubators running. One with quail, one with quail. There we go. One with turkey, one with chickens. Quail hatching running about 75%. Very nice. Just finished 1 chicken hatch and humidity jumped. Yeah, that happens whenever I don't know if this is what you're talking about or not. If you mean the humidity just went up, in your area, like the humidity outside went up when you finished it, or when the chicks started hatching, the humidity jumped. And that's very, very common. When your chicks start to hatch, a lot of times humidity will jump up just a little bit. It usually, like I said, will level out after a day or two, but it does initially jump quite a bit. But hey, you're 75% hatching on your quail. You're doing something right, so good job there. Coop's Country Cooking says, thanks for the good advice. You're absolutely welcome. Robert's here from Australia. Thanks for joining us from Australia. Good grief, it's got to be like 1 o'clock in the morning in Australia or something. Thanks for staying up late with us. Donald says, the brooder box setup you use with the plastic bins, how many day-old quail can you put in each brooder? Oh my goodness, a ton of day-old quail. They're tiny when they first hatch. I've usually, I've had like up to 40, I think, in one of those things, and it's not overly crowded or anything. Now, the problem you run into is that's fine for like a week, but then after that, I mean, they pretty much always almost double in size every day for the first like week and a half. And after about a week, it starts to get crowded. So I usually don't try to run more than about 15 or 20 in one of those because, like I said, once they get to be about 2 weeks old, it's really starting to get crowded with even 20 in there at that time. Luckily, they're about ready to go outside at that point, so it's not that big of a concern. They're not going to be in there very long, but it is. I don't like to run more than that in there for that reason alone. That's why I have 2 different brooder boxes. One of the reasons, anyway. All right. Muzzy Imbombi. I'm pronouncing that wrong, probably. I'm going to call you Muzzy. I hope that's okay. I probably got that wrong, too. But it says I hatched 36 out of 50 eggs. That's pretty good. From eBay. Nice. They're 3 weeks old today. They are big. When can I move them outside to my grow-out cage? Well, that depends on a few things. 3 weeks old, they should be pretty good size. They should be fully feathered out at that point. They probably don't need the heat anymore as long as they're protected from, the wind and it's not getting down below like freezing or any of those kinds of things. Say you've got them like in your garage. My garage never gets below about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So 3 weeks old, they don't need any heat at that point. They can handle 50-degree weather. Wean them off the heat though. Give them, if they've been, with the heat lamp on them 100 degrees all this time, you don't want to just pull it away and plunge them into 50-degree weather. You want to wean them off the heat and just do that over a couple of days. You really don't have to be that precise about it. If they're at 100 degrees, usually let me back up here. I'm trying to say all this and I'm getting kind of mixed up. Let me back up. So usually about when they start to get close to 2 weeks old and they've got most of their feathers, I start weaning them off the heat at that point. And what I'll do is I'll move it from 100 degrees to 90 degrees. And then I'll leave it there for a day or two. And what you'll find is usually the birds will kind of crowd under that heat lamp when you first move it back or turn it down or whatever. They're a little bit cold at that point. They'll move under the heat lamp to stay warm, and they'll stay there for, maybe a day, and then they start spreading out there, and they're kind of all over the brooder box at that point. That means they're kind of used to that. They'll move it away again, another 10 degrees, usually a day, 2 days later. Another 10 degrees, back it down to 80 degrees. Give them a day, 2 days, whatever. Watch the birds when they're moving around the brooder box all comfortable looking, and they get backed off another 10 degrees. And then once they get down to about the 70-degree range, usually I can just turn the light off and it's fine at that point. No problems. So at 3 weeks old, I've had them off the heat lamp completely. A lot of times by the time they're 2.5 weeks old, I've got them off the heat lamp completely. And if the weather's decent outside, and when I say decent, I mean it's not getting below about 50 degrees at night or 45 degrees at night, I'll move them out to the grow-out pens at about sorry, got a text from my aunt. I'll have to respond to her later. It just distracted me. I'll move them out to the brooder box or out to the grow out pens when they're like 2.5 weeks old, 2 weeks old, somewhere right around in there, especially in the summertime. Like I said, when it's not getting below like 70 degrees at night, they're fine. Now, if it's cold outside, if it's getting down below 50 degrees, down into the 40s or the 30s, I'll wait till they're about 3 weeks old. And then usually at that point, as long as you've weaned them off the heat, they're fine to go ahead and move out to the grow out pens. So that was kind of a long way around answering your question. Hopefully I kind of got that answered for you. All right. Lauren says, we have a terrible rabbit incident, had a terrible rabbit incident. We had a bad storm that knocked over a hutch and my new buck and 18 bunnies. They were all out, and I had to catch all by hand. I was still in PJ pants, no jacket, and rubber boots, and in the mud. Raccoons ate 2 of them. Oh no. And one was my rare tri-doe. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Another was crushed. He was all white with a brown mustache. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That's terrible. You kind of had me, almost smiling there for a second because you're talking about being in PJs, no pant, or PJ pants, no jacket, rubber boots, and I've done the very same thing. But the end is not funny, so I don't want to laugh at that part of it. I'm sorry to hear that you had those kinds of problems. That's part of raising animals. Sometimes things are going to happen like that, and there's just not much you can do about it. I have had that time where I took the dog out one morning and I had a cage that the J-clips failed. It just bowed down or bowed down, I guess. And I had some young rabbits in there, 3-week-old rabbits or something, and it was gapped enough that they could squeeze out. And I had like 4 of them get out, and it was like 5:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, still dark out. I let the dog out. He goes outside, and turns, immediately runs for the rabbit hutch and starts chasing these rabbits around. So I'm trying to grab the dog, get him off there, put him inside. And of course, he's barking at the door, wakes my wife up while I'm trying to catch the rabbits out there. She comes and lets him back out because she thinks he wants out. And it was just chaos and craziness there. But luckily, I didn't lose any rabbits. So losing them, not a good thing. I know it's heartbreaking, and I'm sorry to hear that. But it'll get better. Just hang in there. All right. Lee says, if you're looking to start raising quail, is it better to hatch eggs or start with chicks? Boy, that's the question, right? Which comes first, the chicken or the egg, or the quail or the egg in this situation? I've got mixed feelings about that. I think it depends, honestly, on how confident you are with hatching. Do you have experience with hatching? If you want to get eggs, that is a cheaper alternative. You get more bang for your buck. But if you want to get live birds, you get started faster. So I don't know that I can give you the answer for that. A couple things to consider. It may be better to start with live birds, especially if you're just starting out, you've never hatched anything before. Get the birds, get used to taking care of them, figure out what it's going to take. You can always collect their eggs. It won't take long before they start laying eggs, and then you can start incubating them, and you're not stuck with this has to work or I'm not getting quail type situation. Now, if you're pretty experienced with hatching, you're pretty confident with being able to hatch, and just quail is maybe a new bird for you haven't kept before, there's no reason you can't get eggs. You're going to get, if you order from a reputable breeder like Hatch Poultry, Kansas City Quail Farms, you're going to get good bloodlines, probably better than what you're going to get buying live birds from a backyard breeder in most cases. So that is, sorry, get distracted by some of the comments that pop up every once in a while. So I don't know if that answers that for you. It just gives you a couple of things to think about. I think for most people, if you're just starting off with quail, you don't have any other animals, you don't have experience raising them, any of those things, it's probably better to start off with live birds, hit the ground running, so to speak, than it is to try to start with eggs. There can be a little bit trickiness to hatching. Sometimes, there's a little bit of a learning curve there. It's not terribly complex. I've got videos to walk you through it, but I don't know that I would want to invest in eggs if I'd never hatched anything before. It can be a little bit expensive. So anyway, hopefully that answers that for you. All right, Brian says, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mark says, oops, I finally made it in. Whatever happened with the worm farm? Oh man, good question about the worm farm. Okay, so I had the worm farm going. Excuse me, and it was going pretty good. Had it right back here by the shelf here. And we ended up with a problem with bed bugs. Not in this room necessarily, but in my stepson's room. Don't know where they came from. He'd been on a trip recently, so probably brought them home with him from his trip he was on. But anyway, ended up with bed bugs. We tried getting, I don't know if anybody's ever dealt with bed bugs before. No problems really other than his room alone. That was it. But good grief, they are incredibly difficult to get rid of. We tried treating it on our own with all kinds of different things, and they just kept appearing. It never got super, super bad, but we would still find one or two here or there or whatever. So we called an exterminator, and the exterminator came in, and you basically have to, there were a couple of options. They'll do the heat treatment thing, which is like a guaranteed thing to kill them, but that's incredibly expensive. We found one that would do like a chemical treatment, and it was much, much cheaper. But to do that, we had to take all of our bedding, all of our clothes, all that stuff, wash all that stuff, put it in plastic bags, moved out to the garage, Anyway, long story short, part of the process was moving the worm farm out to the garage, and it ended up getting like tipped over, dumped on its top, and the worms died. It was just a mess. But there was too much else going on at the time to really pay much attention to it. So that's kind of what happened to the worm farm. I'll probably get that going again at some point. I need to. It was, it's kind of an interesting thing. So I will tell you guys, worms are great for, composting your food and all those kinds of things. I invested in a, what was it called? Nature Mill composter. I can't remember what it is. It's, it's about that long, that tall, that wide, and it's a composting machine. When they sold for like $400, and I think there's some out on the market that look identical to them. It's not the same company. That company's out of business now. But I found this on Craigslist for $20, and it's got an air pump that pumps air into it. It's got a motor and a turner inside there that turns the compost. The motor's about to give out. That's why I got it for $20, I think. You have to reach in there and help it get started every once in a while, or it doesn't work. But man, that thing, when it's working, it composts like crazy. I mean, it's insane how well that thing works. It's, they're expensive, but man, if you ever find a deal on one of those cheap, it's definitely worth it. It will go through, they say, and I haven't tested this out, they say that it would go through, I think it was 5 pounds of kitchen scraps. This is like vegetables and stuff, not meat, not, that stuff, but it'll go through like 5 pounds of that a day. And I believe it. It does a great job, really good job. Anyway, way off topic from that, so let's get back to the chat. All right, Star says, can you suggest any ways to keep predators away from my quails? Okay, predators. Depends on what kind of predators you're dealing with. A secure cage is the best way. I like a raised cage. Of course, I don't have huge predator pressure. I live in town. I do get raccoon and foxes that have come up to the quail hutches. I've got them on, security cam or game cameras, and they've tried to get in, but they haven't been able to yet. And mostly it's because the cage is raised up higher. If it was down on the ground, I think it would be a much different story, but it's raised up, so that's helped. The other thing you can do is run hot wire, like electric wire. Just run a strand of it around your hutches or your quail pen or wherever that is. Take some aluminum foil and smear some peanut butter on it, and then fold it over on itself and fold it over that wire at about, I don't know, every couple of feet, every foot or so, 2 or 3 feet. Do that all the way around. And whatever comes up, everything likes peanut butter. So whatever's coming after your birds, they're going to smell that peanut butter. They're going to go to that peanut butter. They're going to stick their tongue on there to taste it, and it's going to zap them. And they're going to probably leave things alone. So that would be another way that you can kind of deal with it. Those are probably my 2 best suggestions. If it's one specific predator, you know what it is, you could always trap it. Around here, the conservation department will actually lend out traps, live traps, for nuisance animals, and you can trap them and then go relocate them to. Don't just go throw them in your neighbor's backyard or anything. You don't want to do that. You want to take them out into the woods somewhere, like out into the country, and release them. Don't make them somebody else's problem. But anyway, there's a couple of options for you. That's about the only thing I got, though, unfortunately. All right, Jennifer says, I'm new to the rabbit world, just trying to raise meat for our family, and we had our first litter of kits a few days ago, 11 babies. Wow, that's a big litter. Says, Mom, I had them on the wire. I tried warming them. Only 4 made it. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, that's pretty common with first-time moms. Don't be too upset about that. Chances are she'll do way better on her next litter. Grab a drink here. And that's one of the things I always say is, watch your rabbits, especially first-time moms. If you're not familiar with their habits or anything like that, it's always best, though, watch your rabbits real close when they get real close to giving birth. Now, what I usually find with my rabbits, almost all of them, they'll really start like the day they're going to give birth, either the day or the day before, they'll really start the hay stashing, running around with the hay sticking out both sides of their mouth. And that's a pretty obvious sign they're getting ready to give birth either that day or the next day. That's pretty common. Some rabbits will do that way, way sooner, but my rabbits tend to do that the day of or the day before. And then I know watch them a lot closer, and I'll try to keep an eye on them. It seems like they always have their babies at night, so I always kind of go out and check on them a couple of times at night and before I go to bed, and try to keep an eye and make sure they're having the babies in the nest box. If they're not, like I said, get in there, pick them up, put them in the nest box. Don't worry about handling them. It's not going to bother the mom. She's not going to abandon them or anything like that, and you'll be able to save them that way. Honestly speaking, though, 11 babies, that's a ton. You probably, it wouldn't be a surprise to me when you have 11 babies, even if she had them all in the nest box, that you're going to lose 1 or 2 of them. It's pretty common whenever a rabbit has more than 10, has 10 or more, that you're going to lose 1 or 2 of them at least during the process. But to lose that many is definitely heartbreaking, and I'm sorry that happened. Hang in there. It's going to get better. It's just, again, it's part of the learning process, part of what you go through when you raise animals. Sometimes, bad things like that happen. You'll deal with it. You'll be okay in the end, though. It's good. It will get better. Hatch Poultry says, so sorry to hear about that, Lauren. Hope and pray things get better for you. Absolutely. Waskopple says, 84 here yesterday, freeze warning for tonight, central Illinois. I think that's probably the common saying everywhere you live is if you don't like the weather wherever you live, insert that there, just stick around for a day, right? I mean, that's pretty common. Everybody thinks their weather is so crazy and so much different than everybody else's. Yeah, it was 87 here yesterday. We might have set a record high, I'm not sure. And 55 today, and then we got a freeze warning coming in. So I know it's the same thing here. It's crazy. All right, I don't know. I don't know what that means. Okay. Oh no, could be a lot worse. Look at Hatch Poultry there says we may get 6 to 12 inches of snow tonight. Oh, I can't imagine snow. Lauren says, I seriously almost fainted when I saw the hutch tipped over. Yeah, I can imagine. I know that feeling, Lauren. I'm sorry that happened. It's again, I laugh and joke about other things. Don't take that as me not caring. I do care, and I'm very sorry that happened. I know that feeling. You walk out there and something's wrong, and you immediately know it. It's just it's a bad it's a bad feeling. I know. All right, Rainer says, hi from the Manitoba, Canada. Nice. And I have a doe rabbit, and I only have one fall off from my buck, and she does not want to breed with the buck anymore. What does that mean? Well, it probably means she's pregnant. If you had one fall off, she's probably pregnant. I always like to try to get 2 or 3 just to be sure, but especially if she's not willing to breed with the buck again, she's probably pregnant. I would count her as pregnant, mark 30 days on your calendar, expect baby rabbits in 30 days. That's the way I would handle it. All right, Jack says, have 9 eggs on day 11 in the incubator. Thanks for the helpful tips. Love your videos. Well, thank you so much, Jack, and good luck with your hatch. Hopefully it goes well. William says, Lauren, I posted a picture of my hutch flipped over today, or the coop, actually. Yeah, that's not good. It's happened to me only one time. I didn't actually have it flip all the way over, but I had one time we had really high wind gusts with a storm. We get some pretty good storms here in Southwest Missouri, and it blew one of my quail hutches over. It didn't go all the way over though because there's trees behind it, but it blew it up again. I mean, it was laying in like this against a tree. If that tree hadn't been there, it'd have been on its back. It was a little weird. All right. Jennifer says, do you have any tips for keeping kits warm at night? As long as they're in a nest box, you shouldn't have to do anything. Let me say that again. As long as they're in a nest box and the mother pulled plenty of fur, you shouldn't have to do anything. I've never had problems with rabbits, even in wintertime when it's well below freezing. As long as they're in a nest box and the mother pulled fur, they've always been just fine. It's never been a concern. All right. Gingerbread Man says, I need a shirt like yours. Where can I get one? Oh, what shirt am I wearing today? The canning season shirt. Yeah, this is a great one. Amazon, I think is where I got that. I may have put that in my Amazon shop. I'm not sure, but yeah, just look on Amazon. You can find it. All right, Jakir says, hi, Chris. Nice to join you, buddy. Hope you and your family are well. Greetings from the UK. Thanks, Jakir. We are doing well. Thank you. And I'm glad you could join us tonight, too. William says, for the magic chick water, I add polyvisol to their first water. Yeah, polyvisol is a probiotic vitamin, like electrolyte supplement, isn't it? I'm not 100% familiar with that, but that's good. Yeah, that's a good option to do. All right, 974 says, hi, does layer feed affect the fertility of the eggs? Not really. It shouldn't affect the fertility of the eggs, assuming that it's nutritionally balanced and all those kinds of things. Over time, if you're feeding them like really low protein or any of those kinds of things, it definitely could affect the fertility of your animals, so therefore affecting the fertility of your eggs. But layer feed should be, nutritionally sound enough that it's not going to have any kind of problems, and it would take a while for that to show up anyway. So no, it shouldn't affect the fertility of your eggs. All right. Dolan says, I was thinking about canning my quail meat. Would you say that's a bad idea? It's not necessarily a bad idea. Just make sure you follow approved canning recipes, and use a pressure canner. That's the only way you're going to be able to can meat. It's probably going to be canned for, don't quote me on this, you're going to have to look up an approved recipe. Make sure it's an approved recipe. I can't stress that enough. Don't just use somebody thinks that this is enough time, but I would guess that for pressure canning quail, it's probably going to be something like an hour, on high pressure, 15 pounds, and you're gonna have to adjust that for sea level, all that kind of stuff. I don't know the specifics of that, but yeah, just, as long as you do it the right way, it's not a bad idea at all. Do it. Me personally, I'm not much for canned meat. Some of it's okay, but and it's just a mental thing. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't know. Just canning meat just seems like a foreign thing to me because we never canned meat. We always froze meat, canned vegetables. But that's just me. All right. Deja Peterson says, do you have the coupon code for the Hatch Poultry Farm by chance? I don't have it on me. It is, there it is, slightly rednecked. But I don't know if you have to follow the specific link or not. But anyway, if you ever need it, just go to any of my most recent videos. It's in the description. Not the live broadcast, because I don't really type up a description for that. But any of the most recent videos I post, it's in the description, first line. You can click there and go from there. All right. Where are we at here? Ahmed says, hi, hello, I'm Ahmed from, Ahmed, yeah, I think I got that right, from London. Hello, Ahmed, thanks for joining. Zakir says, how are supplies in your area at the moment? Are you guys under lockdown? Well, we're at a stay-at-home rule right now, statewide. City announced it first, then the state came out and announced it. So yeah, we are on lockdown, I guess. It doesn't really mean anything. It just gives the police power to break up parties and gatherings and those kinds of things. I'd kind of address that in a video on, was it Monday? No, was it last week? Anyway, I addressed it in a video not too long ago. The days are starting to run together now. But yeah, it's not really that big of a difference. I mean, yeah, we're staying at home for the most part, not really going anywhere. Have to go to the grocery store every once in a while. Restaurants are closed down. Whether they're doing drive-through, curbside, pickup and delivery, that's it. You can't go sit down at a restaurant anywhere. Grocery stores are, kind of making a comeback. I mean, they're a little bit low on supplies right now. We went, was it last Saturday, right before the lockdown happened. We went and we were there early in the morning, like 7:30, and they had just gotten a shipment in. They were putting things on the shelf, and it was, it was pretty bare. So like there was no chicken. But I asked the guy that was stocking the meat shelves. I said, "Do you guys have any chicken back there you're going to be bringing out?" And he said, "Yeah, we'll be bringing some out here in just a little bit." And I said, "Okay, I'll wait." And it wasn't like nobody was fighting over it or anything like that. But yeah, it's not quite what it always has been. But it's not terrible. You can get what you need. Nobody's going without food or anything like that. There for a little while, it was pretty tough to find almost any meat in the grocery stores. But I think most of those people that panicked early and hoarded and bought everything already got what they need. So it's starting to make a comeback now. Luckily the feed supply, like I went and got rabbit food, no problem. That stuff's all fine. So all right, Geraldo says. No, that's not Geraldo. Gerardo, I think it's probably Gerardo. I'm not sure. Says, hey, slightly rednecked, I got my quail hutch built thanks to you, bro. Gerald is what it is. Okay, Gerald here from North Carolina. Well, thanks, Gerald. I appreciate that. And congratulations on your new quail hutch. I'm glad that the videos helped out. Valerie Nikonov. I'm getting names wrong. I'm terrible with them. Says hello to you, Valerie. Marie says, we are getting ready to breed our California rabbits for show this year. Hope they all breed. Well, good luck with that. I hope it all works out well too. William says, Hatch, is the code still active? Yeah, it's active. Is that Gerardo? Gerald Gerardo? I don't know. Am I getting names mixed up? Wait a minute. Did I get... Anyway, I see you're here. Thanks. All right. Sheila, hello from Alabama. Thanks for joining. Jakir says, I think my quails have started to molt. How long does it take? How long does it last? And is there a way to accelerate it or promote it? And there's a lot of dust in the quail cage at the moment. Okay, I don't know if the dust has anything to do with the molting. Maybe. You should be able to tell if they're molting. They're going to look kind of raggedy and just like lose some feathers and all that. Usually it only lasts a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks. And the only thing you can really do is increase the protein levels a little bit. That's not really that necessary unless you were feeding like a fairly low protein feed anyway. But so if you're feeding something between like below like 25% protein, if you can bump it up during this time above 25, get it up to 28, 29, or even 30% protein, at least for a while. I mean, I feed pretty much all my birds that higher protein feed all the time anyway, but if you can bump it up at least for a while, that'll help them recover a little bit quicker. They need a lot of protein to regrow those feathers, so that's really the only thing you can do. There's not a lot to do to accelerate it necessarily. It's just part of the natural cycle. They're going to do it from time to time, but again, it's usually only a week and a half, 2 weeks at the most, and they're back to normal. So it's not that bad. All right, Brad Smith says, I have the same incubator as you, and it holds a good temperature for about 14 days, and then the temp goes up and down, and it winds up killing the chicks and the eggs. Man, I'm sorry to hear that, Brad. Try contacting the company about that, because that sounds like a defect. I had one of my thermostats go out. I had a thermostat go out on me on my little giant incubator. And it shot up super high, fried the eggs, and it was terrible. But I called the company, and they didn't ask like when you bought it, where you bought it, nothing. They just said, "Yep, we'll send you a brand new thermostat," and they did. Sent me one in the mail. It was super easy to install. They've got pretty good customer service, so that's one of the reasons I do recommend little giant incubators. I know they're on the cheaper side. I know that they're notorious for having some problems, but the company stands behind their product, at least with my experience. So I would say contact them and get yourself a new thermostat. If nothing else, they may be able to help you troubleshoot and figure out what's wrong with it. All right, Jill says, off the subject, but I love my progressive lenses. I hope you adjust to yours without any problems. Well, they're doing okay. They're not bad. It's just I've never had bifocals or progressives or anything like that. There are some nice things about them. I can look at my watch now and read my watch instead of reading my watch. That's pretty nice. I knew I needed bifocals, but it was just, again, they told me I could get bifocals or I could get progressives, and I opted for the progressives, thinking I'll probably get used to them. The hard part for me is I got to get used to turning my head and looking certain ways. So I guess I tend to carry my head up like this quite a bit, and I can't see, at a distance this way. I have to do this to see that way, turn my head down. And it's just a little bit of adjusting to it. I'll get to it, though. It'll be fine. All right, Aaron says, how are we doing on time here? 41 minutes in. What's the time? Yep, we got about 20 minutes left. All right, Aaron says, you've inspired me to do 2 basic instructional videos on Facebook for friends who are interested in Coturnix quail. Your vids have been a big help. Thank you. Awesome, Aaron. Hopefully your vids go really well. Hopefully your friends enjoy them and they learn something from it, too. Glad to hear it. Waylon says, what's up? It's me from Nacogdoches. Yeah, I used to live in Nacogdoches, so I don't know if I guess that kind of connects us in a way. I guess we're all probably connected. Was that 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon type thing? But yeah, Nacogdoches, small world, huh? All right, Debbie says, my jumbo Coturnix will be 7 weeks on Saturday. When can I expect eggs in East Texas? Well, if you're in East Texas, you're probably not far from Nacogdoches. The days should be getting quite a bit longer right now, so I would say probably in the next week, 2 weeks, they may go as long as up to 12 weeks old before they start laying, but usually around 8 to 9 weeks, somewhere right around in there, you'll start getting some eggs. And what you'll probably get is like, you'll go out there one day and there'll be like 3 or 4 eggs in there, and you'll be like, oh, they started laying, and then you might not get an egg the next day, and then it'll be 1 or 2, and they'll be a little bit slow to get started, and then they'll just take off like flip a switch, boom, they're all laying every day. And you might get a couple of weird eggs, like little bitty tiny eggs, great big eggs, eggs with no shell on them. You might get a couple of those in the process too. Don't worry about it. It's normal. They'll smooth out as they go through it. So just, be patient. You're probably going to start getting eggs anytime now. All right, Dolan, I think it is, says, I have some California quails that I grow, and I was thinking about canning the meat. Would that be a bad idea? I think I already answered that one. Pablo says, que pasa, Chris from Chicago? Thanks. Well, not much, actually. Things are going pretty well. I never know how to answer that question. How's it going? Good. I feel like I'm repeating the same thing over and over again, but I guess that's actually more like, how's it going? What's going on? What's happening? All right. Jill says, to Lauren, says, we use fishing nets to help catch escapees. My neighbor keep buying nets just for that reason. Your neighbors keep buying nets just to catch your baby bunny escapes. Maybe you need to secure your cages a little bit. I don't know. That sounds hateful. I don't mean it that way. I'm just laughing at the thought that your neighbors are buying nets because your rabbits escape that frequently. I had when that happened with me, I told you about the dog going outside and the rabbits being out, and I caught them all. Well, there was one I never did catch, and I actually met a neighbor 3 houses down I'd never met before, because they found my rabbit. It was in their driveway, and it came right up to them. They just picked it up and put it in I think it was a laundry basket or something like that, and somehow found it was me, and I don't know, got a hold of me anyway. Met my neighbors that way. I'd never met them before. They were fairly new. They hadn't lived there very long. I'm usually pretty good about introducing myself to my neighbors. I don't really know a stranger. I just walk up and say hi to anybody. All right. Where are we at here? Chris Dairy Rose Elrod says, I started with fully grown quail. I wanted experience raising them before I started incubating eggs. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that strategy either. For a lot of people, I think that's probably the best way to go about it. All right, Jack says, can you brood them with a reptile heat lamp? What light spectrum do you recommend? I saw the pet store has night, desert, basking. Not sure which to get. Thank you for all your advice and love your vids. You can absolutely brood them with a reptile heat lamp, but I wouldn't do that because they're going to be expensive. Probably a lot more expensive. Go to a farm supply store or even a Walmart and get a 250 watt red light or a clear light. It doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about the spectrum, any of that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter. I like the red lights myself just because at nighttime they're not as visible, I think. I think the red spectrum's a little bit less visible, so it's still kind of dark at nighttime for them, even though the light's on, if that makes sense. Just get a regular, do I have one in here? I don't have one in here. Just get a regular heat lamp. Make sure that, okay, one thing I will say is you're going to get one of those heat lamps with a big disc on it. Make sure you get one that's like ceramic or metal. It's probably gonna be ceramic where the light screws into it. Sometimes they're plastic. Those are not rated for heat lamps. You don't want to do that. You want to get a decent one. They're a little bit more expensive, not that much. But the bulbs themselves, a 250 watt heat lamp, farm supply store or Walmart should have it. Tractor Supply, any of those places. You're probably gonna get you might be able to get a 2-pack for like $10, something like that. Whereas in a reptile, if you go get a reptile basking light or something like that, that's probably like $16, $17 just for one bulb. And it may only be 150 watt. So you're going to get a better deal getting a heat lamp from like a farm supply store. Sorry, grab a drink here. Forrest Homestead says, I used to have meat rabbits about 2 years ago and I stopped. I was thinking about getting meat rabbits again. And last night I had a dream about California rabbits. I guess that's a sign. It could be. It's probably a sign that you were thinking about getting rabbits again, but who knows? Maybe it's more than that. All right, so and he says, it goes on to say, I'm finally getting those summer vibes. Yeah, summer's coming. Can't wait. Kind of anxious for it. Aaron says, have you ever had problems with thin shell or soft shell eggs? And if so, what did you do to solve the problem? Yeah, I've had problems with some thin shell or soft shell eggs, but usually it's when the birds first start laying, or if they've taken a break in the winter and they start laying again in the spring. When they first start laying, then that's usually when you have those problems. And I don't do anything about it. It's not really a big concern. It's just part of egg. I mean, it's gonna happen from time to time, unless you start getting them like real frequently, like every day you're getting thin shells from most of your birds. It's nothing to worry about. If you are seeing where every egg they lay is really thin shelled or without an egg, I mean, if that's happening really, really, really frequently, then you take a look at your feed, see what calcium level it has in it. It needs to be about 1.5% average calcium for your quail. You don't really want to higher than that, much higher than that. 1.5% to 2%, somewhere right around in there is a good level for them. If your calcium level is lower than that in your feed, then you may want to offer some additional calcium to them. You can do that with, eggshells, just like bake them and crumble them up really fine. Or you can do it with crushed oyster shell you can get from any farm supply store. Do not mix it into their feed though. Always offer it on the side. They will eat as much as they need of that to regulate their own calcium. If you mix it into their feed, then they can easily get too much calcium. And too much calcium can lead to bone problems, and same thing as not enough calcium in that sense. But it can also lead to really poor hatch rates. If you get too much calcium in their diet, the eggshells are much, much thicker. It can make it difficult for the eggs to hatch out. So hopefully that all makes sense. I got that covered, I think. So usually you don't have to worry about it. It's just part of the birds laying eggs. They're going to get over it. It's not a big deal. It's not a concern. I think too many people see, one egg that is a thin shell or no shell or something like that, and they, oh no, I got to add calcium. No, don't worry about it. It's common. It's going to happen. I mean, I get, even after the bird's been laying for a long time, every once in a while I get an egg with no shell in it, no shell on it, and that's it. And a lot of times you don't notice them because the birds end up trampling them, and they're pretty, they don't have a shell, so they're not very sturdy. And the birds end up trampling them, and they break them, and they disappear. You never find them, but it happens. It's a pretty common thing. It's not a big concern. All right, Michelle says, what about your solar light? Any progress on starting the sales? No, I don't know that that's going to work out. Tried the Kickstarter twice, didn't get funded, didn't get anywhere near funded on the Kickstarter. I am still talking to the manufacturer. There's an opportunity for me to buy a much smaller quantity of them, which I might be able to. The problem is I got to take out a loan even for those funds, and I don't know. That's a big risk. Take out a big loan to try to get that thing to market to sell. But if I do, you guys will be the first to know. I'd have to sell at least 100 of them to make it worth getting. 100 of them at about $40 a piece to make it even worth ordering in, or I'm going to be in debt and making a payment on something. So we'll see. All right. Excuse me. MD says, how are the quail water cups holding up? Do they leak often or get poop in them? I use chicken nipples, but when the quail peck at them, the water spills, keeping the poop wet, and it's attracting flies. Actually, the water cups work pretty well. I don't have problems. I mean, yeah, they do get in them every once in a while, but it's not really a big issue for me. If you set them about right height, which is about chest level for the birds, sometimes they'll climb on them. I've had birds that do that. It seems to be like some birds do, some birds don't. Right now, the birds I've got, they don't bother them too much. It's not a big deal. I just took it all down and cleaned it all out like this last week. In fact, I talked about that in video. In the video, I talked about I was going to cut the hose off of them and just replace the hose. But the hardware store didn't have the right size hose. So I ended up fighting it and getting it. I finally pulled it off the little barbs that hold it on there, washed it all out, cleaned it all out, and put it back in there. And I cleaned out the water cups while I was at it. I had one cup that had a little bit of the droppings inside of it, and it hadn't been there very long. So, I mean, that's, after a year and a half of them being up, I hadn't taken them down in a year and a half. It's not that big of a deal. They're not too bad. And they do a great job with no leaks. I don't have any problems with leaking. They don't hold water in them all the time. So, I mean, the birds just peck at that little yellow thing in there and get the water as it comes out. So there's not like a bunch of water laying around or anything. I like them a lot. They're definitely my favorite way. All right. Oh my goodness, we got a lot of comments. I don't think I'm going to get through them all. We got 9 minutes to do it. Let's see what I can do here. Jill says, I have 4 female quail and 1 male in one cage, and 4 female and 1 male in another cage. I regularly get 3 eggs from one cage and 5 from the other. Yeah, that seems to be the case sometimes. Sometimes you have birds that are just underperformers for whatever reason. And they may catch up too. Just give them a little bit of time. Let me see. Wait, 4 female and 1 male, 4 female and 1 male. Oh, okay, never mind. I read that wrong. You get 3 eggs from one. So you've got one bird that's not performing. You got one that's really overperforming if you're getting 5 eggs from that bird. Yeah, that happens sometimes too. All right. Dan says, what's up, Chris? First quail hatch due on the 14th. Awesome. Good luck with your hatch. I hope it goes well. And Mary says, how long is your outside building for your rabbits? It is long enough to hold 4 cages. What is that? It's like 15 feet or something like that. The cages are 30 inches wide, right? 36, yeah, 30 inches wide. And then I think I left like an inch gap on each side on the side of each cage. It was like an inch or 2 gap on the side of each cage. So you take 30 inches times 4. I can't do the math in my head. I think it's like 15 feet or maybe it's 17 feet, something like that. Just enough room to where I could hang the cages inside with a little bit of a gap. I think it's 2 inches on each side of the cage. There's the center post in the middle, so that takes up another, 4 inches, 6 inches, I think it is. So anyway, hopefully that kind of makes sense. I don't know if I can answer that. Look at that, we just got a super chat. I guess I better run down there and answer that comment. Where did it go? There it is, there it is. This was MD's giving me $10 super chat. Says, cool, I might give the water cups a try. I appreciate the time you take to make all your videos. Have a blessed day. Well, thank you so much, MD's. I appreciate that. I really like the water cups myself. They work great, in my opinion. So, and I've got some videos on how to train your quail to them. It's super easy. And even how to repair them if they do. Because every once in a while they will leak. One other thing you might watch out for is if you do have birds that like to climb on them. Some birds seem to for whatever reason. That's the only problem I've ever had is I've had birds that wanted to climb on them. They'll stand on them with their foot on that plunger, and then it causes that to just completely flow, and it just floods out, basically. You can fix that just by attaching a piece of wire or something above the cup, high enough where they can get their head in there, but not where they can stand on it, if that makes sense, not stand on the cup itself. It's pretty easy to fix that too. So, all right. Robert says, can't stay long. I made it. I don't get to see you live, usually working. Well, thanks, Robert, for making it. I appreciate it. All right. We got a couple of hellos here. I'm going to skip those for now, guys. Sorry, we're running out of time. I want to see if I can get to the other comments here and get some answers for people. Mary says, what and how do you disinfect your rabbit cages? I usually don't. I don't find it necessary, but occasionally I take them down and clean them out. Usually it's just, I just spray them down with some water. You can run a little bit of diluted bleach water over them if you want to disinfect them really good. Or if you've got a, like a blowtorch, you can just blowtorch them basically and heat them off. Honestly, just wash them off with some water, get all anything stuck on them off. That's all I do. Set it out in the sun for a day or two. It's done. It's fine. That's all you need. As long as you got everything off of it, you don't need to go any further than that. Sun will kill all that stuff for you. All right. Star says, why did you choose quail over chickens? I've actually talked about that in video before. The reason I chose quail over chickens, there's a couple of reasons. One is I live in town. So living in town, I'm not able to have roosters. It's against the ordinance. I'm able to have chickens, a limited number of them, which you don't need that many anyway. But with quail, I can get eggs, and because I can have quail roosters, they don't fall under the ordinance. Nobody complains about a rooster crow, or a quail crow, I should say. They can produce fertile eggs, so I can incubate them and I can raise them up for meat. So I can't do that with chickens. Now I am going to do some meat chickens this spring. Here in a couple of weeks, I'm going to get some meat chickens, and I'm going to be running those. But that's just I got those chickens. I didn't raise those chickens myself. With quail, I can incubate, hatch, have my own meat production, have my egg production, all of that. And it's in a much smaller space. Nobody complains about it. Nobody even knows I've got them. That's the only reason I've done that. All right. Corey says, hello from Central Michigan. Fighting snow here today. Put my 10-year-old son and I have been working on a quail pen to start some quail. Awesome. Good way to spend the day then. Sorry you're having to deal with snow. How are we doing on time? 4 minutes left. Yep, King Coop 8 is here. Hello, King Coop 8. I saw you left a comment on a video about fertile eggs. I'll talk about that real quick here, just in case it takes me a time to get to your comment. With a fertile egg, you can tell fertile eggs from non-fertile eggs. If you cut the top of the egg off, dump the egg out, you'll see the yolk. There's going to be a white dot on the yolk. Now, that just means it's a mature egg. That doesn't mean it's fertile. It means it could be fertilized. What you're looking for is a faint bullseye ring around that white dot on the yolk. Now, it almost always when you dump the egg out, for some reason that white dot ends up on the upside, but sometimes it's on the bottom. So, that's a little bit tricky. So what you do is you get like 4 or 5 eggs and you dump them all out and you look at them really closely. And if most of them, you can see that little round faint bullseye ring around there, then they're fertile eggs and you can consider your fertility pretty good and you can go from there. Hopefully that makes sense. If you're worried about eating fertile eggs, don't worry about it. Eat them. They're fine. There's no reason you shouldn't eat a fertile egg versus a non-fertile egg. They taste the same. You won't know the difference. All right. Rainier says, thanks for just starting. Thanks for that. I just started to breed, and this is my first potable litter. I think it's probable litter, I think. Anyway, you're absolutely welcome. And we got crocheting around New Zealand, from New Zealand. Hello. And it's midday in New Zealand, huh? Nice. It's nighttime here. It's about 8 o'clock at night, about time for me to go to bed. Yeah, I'm old. I go to bed early, like 9:30. All right. FAS 182 drummer says, hello, Chris, or hello from California. What is a realistic hatch rate that you tend to go by? Do you ever line breed your rabbits? I don't typically line breed the rabbits because I just find rabbits easy enough to come by. I usually just buy new breeders when I need them. But a good hatch rate, I usually consider anything over about 70% a good hatch rate. I typically get between 70 to 85%, sometimes 90, somewhere right around in there. I don't think I've ever done 100% hatch rate, but, usually right around in there. All right, Jill says, polyvisol is vitamins for babies. I also have it without iron. Does iron hurt the chicks? I don't see why iron would hurt the chicks, but I honestly don't know. I haven't done deep studies into that stuff. So I don't know. Good question. I'll have to look into it. William says, Jill, I heard it does, but I don't know why. I don't know why either. I mean, who knows? All right, Forrest Homestead says, the rest of my school year is now online till the end. Yeah, my stepson just started online school this week. All right, how are we doing on time? Time to go? Time to get this wrapped up, guys. I'd love to hang out with you a little bit longer. This is one of the things I really enjoy doing, interacting with you guys. Thank you so much for joining the live broadcast, for giving me content to talk about, so I'm not just up here going, stumbling over my words the whole time. Thanks for watching the videos when I put them out. I appreciate that. If there are certain things you want to see addressed, always make sure you leave that in the comments and ask me to do videos on that. I do read the comments. I do my best to respond to every one of them. If I don't get to a comment, forgive me. Sometimes the comments show up as like they go into the spam bucket and I never see them for whatever reason. Who knows? I don't always see the responses. Like if I respond and you respond to me, I don't always see those either. So forgive me if I miss those too. But I do my best to try to get to every comment. So thanks guys for watching tonight. Thanks for joining me. I got to go spend some time with the family, get ready for bed because like I said, I'm old. It's getting close to bedtime already. So we will see you guys next Thursday night. God bless each and every one of you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next week. Take care.